so much soul. About to bust out the room. All different flavors, way more than 32. From these shoes, you can't mess with these dudes. Nike Reeboks, about soccer knees. Golden Gooses on dudes, it's crazy. Converse collab make life easy.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Soul Brother, hosted by yours truly, Flex Luther. And today, guys, we are blessed with a beautiful guest. What's up? What's new? And how you feeling?
Hey, I'm Jazerai Allen Lord, aka Nerd Like Jazzy, on Instagram and TikTok, or Jazzy Ray on X, Twitter.
I like it. First of all, thank you for coming through on the Soul Brother podcast, taking time out your day to talk sneakers and much more. So let's get right into it. What did you have on feet today?
A favorite of mine. I don't know if the kids know about these here, but these are my favorite since I was like a kid. So there we go.
So how many times have you bought that pair in your collecting
that pair? Twice.
Really?
I've only had to buy that pair twice because I don't wear them a lot. So
I like it. Unfortunately, I've never had a pair. Not yet, at least. I've been stuck on other stuff, so just hasn't made it into my collection yet.
Yeah, but like this is also not really how I typically dress regularly in my life today. So I think that's another thing about collecting is like you fall in love with shoes, but then your style changes. But when it's winter time or like it's cold out, I like to bring these out because they're leather and they're pretty sturdy. So
yeah, I definitely got to get me a pair, man. With the resurgence of retro sneakers, basketball, football, all those greats from the '90s, definitely got me looking different at the vintage basketball and football shoes from the earlier years. But the pair I went with today, because I've been having FOMO, missing out on the release that we just got of the Black Metallics. This is the pair from 2016. The more I look for a pair, the more, I guess I would say, bad reviews I would see. I see a lot of people complaining about the Nike Air on the back for the recent release, it not being like threaded or embroidered into it. Still a great pair for me. If I don't get the pair that we just got, I'll be fine because I know we're going to see it again in another 5 or 10 years, and maybe that pair will be better than the one we just got, but
this one will be like crumbled or something, like
yeah.
I think that's my thing is like with the nostalgia piece is if these ever like crumbled or something on me, like I would double back for these. But other than that, I think I'm done on nostalgia.
Yeah. I haven't had a pair crumble on me yet. Knock on wood. But I try to keep my room at a temperature where I'm not keeping a lot of moisture. So I try to invest in. I try to take care of what I invest in with my sneakers. Like I treat every pair like it's a $200 plus pair.
Yeah, it's like a little wine cellar now. Like I have the humidifier, like all those things you have to do to temper control it. So
yeah. I always see people talking about like sneakers crumbling after 10 years, and and I got a pair, I think my Do the Right Thing and my Forest Green 14s are coming up on like 20 years, if not 20 years, and neither pairs are crumbling. My Do the Right Thing 3s are cracking. The paint is cracking, but that's just quality issues that we had back then. So I think it plays a big part when you're, investing and taking care of how you store your sneakers. Big part.
And then when you're like, when you're old, it's your big age like me. It's like the age of the sneaker too is like, okay, some of these shoes I've had since I was like 20 years old. So it's like, that's a 25-year-old shoe at this point. So
what is it? How does it feel to look back at a sneaker that you've had that long?
It's for me, those shoes mean the most, even if they're like GRs or something, because it's, I remember the things that I did and like the experience of chasing that shoe or finding that shoe and the memories that I had in the shoe. Like the shoes that I was wearing when I went into labor with both of my kids, so it's like those special shoes to me, or
Mm-hmm.
the shoes that I wore when I got married, or the shoes I wore when I got divorced. Like those shoes
Mm-hmm.
are super important to me. And so it's like a kind of, it's honestly been my easy for me to like piece my life together through all
Mm.
the different sneakers, because you lose time, like. And then I
Mm-hmm.
had brain surgery also recently, so it's like, oh, I when I bought the 12s, the recently, I was like, the last like reach backs that I got, when I put them
Mm-hmm.
on, my new brain was like, bing, like that's who you are. Like there was such a connection to like who
Mm-hmm.
I've been my whole life, that my brain, like it just automatically clicked. So to me, it's like those are the things, or that mean a lot. Or
Yeah.
like these, like the melody. These are the melody Asanis, is like,
Mm-hmm.
knowing her from the very beginning, before like she had a shoe, and then her Reebok drop was one of my favorite ones. So like, having those moments too, of just seeing how far women's storytelling has come like over the years, has been really interesting too.
Yeah. So when did you realize that, like, before you had the 20-year-old pair of sneakers, when did you realize that like sneakers meant something to you? Like before even like, okay, these look nice, I'm wearing them. How did you know they meant something to you?
When I was like 11 or 12, I used to want what all the cool kids had at school, but my mom's a single mom. She's young,
Yeah.
like she's not doing that. I'm going to pay less, she's like, we're not doing that. And so it was like, well, okay, well, I always like longed for those shoes. And then when I got my first job, I went like my first paycheck. I worked in the Sears men's department, and at that time, it was intentional for me because I was wearing like Eddie Bauer, and
Mm-hmm.
like I was wearing like men's clothes. So I was like buying my clothes from the little Sears men's department, and then I took my little check and put a pair the 11 IEs on layaway at Foot Locker, because I was working in the mall. And at that point, I realized like I have a problem. But I think before then, because my mom would buy me like two pairs, like when school started,
Mm-hmm.
like looking for these. Like I knew I had a problem. I wasn't buying them with my own money at this time. My mom was buying shoes for me at this
Mm-hmm.
time, but I made her go to like four different stores to find these at the time. And man,
Yeah.
that's when I realized I had a problem. And I
Yeah.
think as I got older, like,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm in my early 20s in 2000, like around then, and I'm a woman, like people would be like,
Yeah.
you're a weirdo. Like, like people, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be like a cool thing, it was like,
Mm-hmm.
why do you have 100 pairs of shoes? You're a weirdo. So I would be like the weird sneaker girl. So I realized then that, oh, not everybody loves them like this.
Yeah. 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 No, that's the it's very wild to see now. I mean, even like just collecting as a short term as I've been collecting, like just seeing how sneakers were perceived when I was younger to now, it's just, money, money, money. And before it was, to keep it real, it was ghetto. That's what that was
Yeah.
called. Like,
Well,
you're like, oh,
the
okay.
resale market did exist, but it was like
Hmm.
ISS and eBay,
Yeah.
so, and it wasn't a lot of like super duper, like the most I was paying for was like $500 back then, when it was like,
Mm,
there wasn't a lot of tax on shoes like there is now.
yeah.
So I would say like the reselling aspect of it has always been a part of the culture, but
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
just so greedy these days.
Yeah, yeah. Now people are making a whole generational wealth off of reselling shoes now, so it's a different ball game for sure. Um, but you talk about like ISS and those sneaker media outlets. Before you were recognized, which I had to bring in my vintage Kicks on Fire t-shirt.
Woo!
That yeah, this was my entryway. I didn't have internet like growing up, so I was very late to online sneakers.
The
I've been
onlines,
collecting
yeah.
since yeah, so like my entry was Kicks on Fire, and I
Oh,
remember
I
the
love
shirt
that.
drops. Yeah, I remember the shirt drops, and they would sell out.
And
But
I was
before you
mailing
got
those out.
that's
And
crazy.
I was mailing out the wristbands, the red ones, and the
Yeah,
black ones came, and
I still,
yeah,
I still, I still, I still got a couple wristbands. I kept all mine. I got because I try to get every shirt because that used to be like a thing. Like those
yeah.
shirts would sell out immediately, and it was like I got to get a Kicks on Fire shirt. But before you got to that point, do you feel like you were recognized within, like before the media? How were you recognized within sneakers?
I wasn't because I mean, like I kind of started
Mm-hmm.
like Kicks on Fire was my entryway outside of
Mm-hmm.
like being a female sneakerhead on ISS or being part of Female Sneaker Fiend.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a community of women through that, but the internet really allowed me to like find my community, to find other weird sneaker girls, quote unquote, like me, like in different cities, different states, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But Kicks on Fire was also my introduction to like online sneaker media outside of ISS, Nike Talk. That like because there
Mm-hmm.
was no complex sneakers at that time. There was no that there was regular complex, but complex had Kicks on Fire, Nice Kicks, like a
Mm-hmm.
number of outlets that they would support. They never had complex backslash sneakers until
Mm-hmm.
all the success of the publishers that they invested in. And
Mm-hmm.
so my first like entryway was Kicks on Fire. I had a mutual friend, Eric, who was friends with the founder of Kicks on Fire, and he was looking for a writer, and I was graduating college. And I'm a journalism student. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm looking for somebody to write for the blog." And my friend Eric is like, "Oh, I know a girl and then who's super into sneakers and she's a writer too. Like I could, introduce you." And so he
Mm-hmm.
introduced us on AIM, AOL Instant Messenger. And Khan, the founder, was like, "Do you like sneakers?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Do you want to write about them?" And I'm like, "Sure." Like, and then so he was like, "I'll pay you to write about them on my blog." And I'm like, "What's a blog?" Because this is like 2006. And so
Mm-hmm.
he shows it to me, and I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm down." And so I was making $5 an article back then. And
That's
he was like,
crazy.
"Yeah, super insane." And it wasn't like a put together business the way it is today. It was
Mm-hmm.
very wild, wild, wild west, and like trying new things and doing whatever the fuck you wanted to do, and throwing things at the wall and seeing if they stick, and
Yeah.
posting whoever you wanted to post on the blog and on the Instagram. So before branded editorials and all this stuff, it was just like a free for all space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I started like online, like literally my first entryway outside of forums
Mm-hmm.
was writing for one of the biggest news outlets that was in sneakers at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
then Khan gave me just so much agency in the space because he didn't want to do nothing. He didn't want to go to events. He didn't want to like shoot shoes. He didn't want to do the hiring. He just wanted to like be the founder, and he used somebody
Yeah.
else to kind of be the manager of operations. And so I stepped into that role. Um, and that allowed me to like see how all different parts of media work. But I became immediately that girl from Kicks on Fire. Like so many people like would know me in that way, like that
Mm-hmm.
girl from Kicks on Fire. And then I took over the social media. So we did a radio style, Twitter broadcast where we had different personalities, different days on different times
Mm-hmm.
discussing topics. And I oversaw that too. And we won an award with Mashable for our social strategy. And that taught me like so many different parts again of the business and the marketing and like understanding how it all works together. And
Mm-hmm.
who like how many people like one job is actually like six jobs, in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
business. One job
Yeah.
in like the content creator world is like six jobs in like the business side of it. So
So,
I learned all of that kind of at my 10 years from there. But yeah, I didn't really have a, I wasn't in community before that. Like my
mm-hmm.
sneaker community was like a bunch of boys that I raced cars with because I really started heavy getting into sneakers after I was racing cars because we would drive to camp outs. We would like, you know,
Yeah.
do like 10 car meetups and like drive to LA from San Diego for campouts and stuff like that. And a lot of those boys they were into sneakers because I was into Japanese cars and Japanese fashion and all
Mm-hmm.
of this is I was heavy into Nike SB at the time. And so a lot like that was my community, but I didn't really have a women's community or like, like-minded people like myself. It was just a
Yeah.
bunch of boys everywhere. It was definitely a boys club for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to my homie Chris. He used to write for Kicks on Fire,
Yeah.
and he brought you up. He was like, I was like, really? He was like, yeah, man, she was Kicks on Fire, and I'm like, that's crazy because like I said, that was my entryway, and before like the nice kicks and the sneaker news for me, it was Kicks on Fire, because that was just some way, somehow, like when I got online and started, searching sneakers and looking for sneakers, that's what I used, Kicks on Fire. Because we got into the conversation about like how it's changed and stuff like that, and that
Yeah,
conversation,
Chris is
snowball
like one
into
of
that.
the earliest little babies I had on the internet. I
Mm,
love Chris. So it's like
yeah,
that was,
nah.
and those opportunities too showed me that I had a power to open doors, because it's like, oh,
Mm,
I can bring people into a seat at the table that like are really passionate about it. And I was looking for people I was mainly hiring from Twitter, and I still do today. It's like looking for people who are really passionate about it and hungry. It's like that,
mm-hmm.
to me, is more important in working in the business than somebody that's just a good photographer, you know?
And what is your perspective on, like, sneaker blogs and sneaker news now in our current atmosphere?
It's a shit show. But I think it's like that in every industry, just because journalism, like true journalism, has really collapsed like
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. And so I think, one, it's difficult because the the journalists are just people with opinions now, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
not following they're not following ethical journalism. So you're seeing a lot of um an inability to critique. I think
Mm,
that's what, like, not understanding the difference between personal bias and hating and critique, like actual critique. And so I think
yeah.
that, for one, is a difference. Like, when I started, we were all actual writers that like
Mm-hmm.
sneakers. And so now with influencer, like, there were no influencers when I started in it. So it's like now
Yeah.
content creators and influencers and podcasters, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many people in the space, in the journal, in the
Yeah.
news space. And it's difficult to know who to trust and how, like, to perceive their how to perceive their news point of view. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Fox News is going to be conservative, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
understand like what the point of view is.
Yeah.
And even after all this time, there's still very, very few women writing sneakers, women at outlets, women writing sneakers,
Mm-hmm.
women in in public facing spaces in journalism,
Mm-hmm.
in this space. And so that's why I love what Key and Ashley are doing and what Sneaky Leak is
Mm-hmm.
doing, because it's like, well, we need that. Because at one point, like, one of the reasons I had left media too, at one point, Complex had 16 sneaker outlets or publishers, and not one was for women. And I thought that was just insane.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, shout out to all those ladies doing their thing. It's definitely needed. Their voices are needed. They have influence just like the males in this space, so that's definitely needed. When did you realize that you were no longer per se a sneaker fan, but a voice of the culture?
When I
Using
was
that
at
word,
Kicks on
culture.
Fire, that's like, I was like, oh my God. Like, I said, like, I went on Twitter one day and was like, hey, this is Jazerai from Kicks on Fire, so that we would
Mm-hmm.
announce who it was on the timeline so people would know who they were talking to. So they
Yeah.
weren't just like talking to a brand like Wendy's kind of does. It was like, no, you're talking to me right now. And there was just so much,
When.
like, a lot of sexism, or a lot of patriarchy,
Mm. Oh
but
yeah.
it was a lot of my Instagram, for example. I only have 500 followers on Instagram, and I'm posting my kids and stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
when that happened, I went from 500 to 5,000 followers overnight. Like, when I put my, just this is
Yeah.
who I am, and I was like, oh my God. And so, yeah, it became public facing immediately, and people going back weeks and weeks and weeks, and like judging what you're eating and stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And so then a little bit after that, I would go into Foot Locker or something, and the
Mm-hmm.
employees or people shopping would know who I was. And my kids would hate that. Like, I would take them back to school shopping, and people would be approaching me like, aren't you that girl who
Mm-hmm.
Kicks on Fire? And my kids would just be like, can't you just be our mom today? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying. But
Um,
like, there are certain spaces, and for them it's weird because it's like, it doesn't happen everywhere. It's in very
mm-hmm.
specific spaces that it would happen in. And it doesn't
Yeah.
happen nearly as much now, thank God. But like, back then, for sure. That's when I realized.
Like it. Do you, now that you are that voice, like what do you use that voice for when it comes to sneakers?
I mean, two things: Black stories and women's stories, I think, and making sure that I'm putting back into those spaces and nourishing those spaces, because there's a conversation. I sit on the board for the Black Footwear Forum. And there's a big conversation. It's been about a year now of like, what happens when we're not here anymore? But there are a lot of the people that sit on the board and are in the forum in a kind of, I don't want to say like, I don't know, like not a manager, but just very involved in the forum and community work and stuff, and closer to Dr. Dwayne, is like, we're all 40 to 60 years old. So it's like, okay, well, if we're the first guard, etc., and like we're like, who's going to replace us, and like what happens to all the work that we've done over this time, right? And so I think for me, it's been a lot about investing back into Black storytelling in authentic ways, and making sure Black people are at the table and telling our own stories. That's always been very important to me. And also making sure that women, different, diversity of thought, but also like a diversity amongst their talents. I think their talents and a diversity of thought as well, and not just the typical diversity call outs, which we're still fucking asking for, which is crazy to me, that I've been telling women's stories since 2007 and we're still asking for more visual representation of dark-skinned women in plus-size bodies. I think this is fucking wild to me. But yeah, it's those things that, like, I've seen a lot of change in the space, but in those particular areas, there's still a strong call for sure. And so for me, it's like wanting to make sure that I'm using my voice and using my platform to create impact and do what I can where I can.
No, absolutely. You've worked from the inside of sneakers for a while, and you've been out on the ground. What do you see now that, like, you're back on social media? What do you feel is misunderstood by the people that's on the outside that hasn't like worked in sneakers like you have?
I think that there's a lot of Nike doesn't respect what I do, and that's why they're not seeding me. Like, this type of stuff is like, oh my gosh. Seeding has been around forever in all industries, not just sneakers. And so, I've been seeded 20 years, like as long as I worked in the business, because I was at a major media outlet. And so I think that there's a lot of conversation about judgment about who should be seeded, like who deserves it, quote unquote, and who doesn't, because seeding happens for a multitude of different reasons. Not just because they think that you have a large platform, the best platform. A lot of it's relationships, or like, for me, a lot of my seeding happens because it's people that I supported in the beginning of their career, like John Geiger, Mosh, Alexander John, like Beema Williams. Like, I can count on product from them being seeded to me because we all kind of came up together. And so there's the networking of people that were kind of like been at it a long time, and they respect the work that I do, so they want me to have their product, not because I'm like an amazing content creator or they want me to wear it on stage or something. Like, just like, I'm happy to do that, but I think that's one of the big things, is a lot of the entitlement, and everybody wants to be a content creator, and they think that being a content creator is the only way to be in the sneaker business. And that is really disheartening too, which is like why I try to use my platform to educate in those ways of like, if you cut content, like, you can do that and you could have influencer contracts, but you could also actually work in the business. I own an agency, and I always pick up people that just cut content. I don't need you to be in the content. I need you to just cut it, or like just edit it. Those types of things, or like there's opportunities like that out there all the time. Or like they think, oh, I just need a shoe. I need to, but like getting a shoe is not like a one track situation. Like, there are many different ways to get a shoe, but it's like, not very, that's like, I feel like these are like, they think the long ways around are the only ways to get there.
And how do you deal with, like, I guess you would say, that perception that's on social media? You're just knowing what you know, and like, your experience. Like, how do you navigate through social media?
I don't participate in those conversations. I think one thing that I have learned being on, coming from media and the influencer space and being more forward facing in a public platform like that. Now I'm on my own now, but one thing um,
Mm-hmm.
like that is coming from that to being inside now and kind of running a more corporate business and partnering with the brands in that way um, has shown me that a lot of those conversations nobody gives a fuck about. I would say like
Mm-hmm.
95% of those conversations, people that actually do this don't give a fuck about, and we're not talking about them, and they don't know that these conversations even exist. And so
Mm.
I think that's like, yeah. And that's like the big takeaway for me is like, they don't care and they don't need to care because it doesn't affect the
Yeah.
actual business, right? Of it is like, I think there are fun conversations to have, like what shoes
Yeah.
you're allowed to wear with what pants and what color socks you want to wear. Shout out to Sneaker Bay. Like I think all these are fun conversations to have, but they're not moving anything forward, and they're not
Mm.
something that's being discussed in spaces like impactful spaces. Like the things that are being discussed in those crowds are who is up and coming, as far like who is telling us like a story that's true in this way. Like it's
Mm.
very specific. It's not like who has the most followers. I've never had anybody ask me, or when I'm booking talent, who has the most
Mm-hmm.
followers. Like they're looking for a specific conversion. Like
Yeah.
who has an audience that's 60% female and that, like they're, and also is a vegan and also lives in this state. A lot of the briefs are like that. And so
Yeah.
very specific voices and briefs, as opposed to just like who's the hottest Black girl out, right? Like that's not a brief, so
Yeah. 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 You said something I feel is very important there because shout out to all the people on Twitter that throw the space and stuff, but these conversations that
oh my
that
God,
we're
the
having,
spaces conversations. Woo, Jesus.
these are
I thought we was just
they're
talking about
4
the
hour
timeline.
4 hour conversations about stuff that we have, and I say we because I say as a collective, we have deemed important that's not important. So this is this
A
is
lot of that is like people that have like it's a personal problem. I always find when I'm in those
mm,
spaces, it's like, oh, well, this person and this person need to hash out this misunderstanding. And it's like, I think that's important for community.
mm,
Absolutely. Like, I think that having those conversations are important for community building and for,
for sure.
making sure that community is aligned together. I think
Hmm.
that where it gets misstepped is that we don't spend that same amount of time talking about things that are actually meaningful or impactful. Nobody wants to have those conversations.
Hmm.
Like how can we make sure that more Black women, like how can we market Black women as together, as a
Hmm.
whole? Like how can, what is the public, like the PR strategy there? Or like how can we
Hmm.
build something? There's not having these conversations. They're having very ridiculous conversations. And so, which I think are important for community. But what I think is strange is that a lot of the people in those conversations feel as if they're doing something that is actually impacting sneaker culture as a whole. And I think
Hmm.
there's a misunderstanding on X and on Twitter that like this is a representation of sneaker culture as a whole, which
Hmm.
it's not. It's definitely a representation of like the Twitter sneaker community. Absolutely. Like, does that exist? Yes. Is that a part of sneaker culture? Absolutely. Is it a valid community in sneaker culture? Absolutely. In the same way that like people that are content creators and they know each other, like,
Hmm.
yeah, you're in community with other content creators or other podcasts. Like it's the same thing. It's like, or you're a IG sneaker model, it's like, yeah, well, we know you from this space, like you're in community in this space. And then there's a few people, a lot of that are like that, are a part of the actual industry um,
Hmm.
that exist everywhere, like me, right? And so it's but there are a lot of people that don't understand that thousands of sneakerheads are not on X, and like they don't give a fuck to be on X, and they don't want to be like, they look at X as like the ghetto, to your point, like they look at X as like the worst tier of sneaker culture that there is. And so that they don't want to make investments, that brands don't want to invest there. They don't give a fuck about the conversations that are had there. Like I am a believer in the platform, and because I think conversation is needed and that we need to be able to find each other.
Yeah.
So for me, I've always advocated for people to activate on this platform, but they don't want to do it because it's unpredictable. It's always very messy, and it's not. They don't have a reason to make a spend there. Like, how is that helping them? And they can get that, spent that same thing on Instagram, not the conversation piece.
But yeah,
But again, they're not really looking for the conversation piece when they're activating. So a lot of that, is like what matters to them oftentimes is not as important as what matters to the community. And I think that community, it's the same thing. Like, there are tons of people talking about Mac and Apple, right? Like, and yes, there are community conversations, but like Steve Jobs' friends in them, like, they don't give a fuck. Like, the only thing I think that I think Burger King is doing some great marketing now, where it's just like they're showing that online people say the fries are trash, and so they're doing this whole kind of social initiative that is the CEO trying the fries and going down to the kitchen and asking, like, what's going on with our fries? Can you tell me about our old fries from the 80s? Like, actually listening to the conversations that are had online, and then taking that to implement business. And then I think it's smart to like market that as well. But that is not something that has been deemed successful in sneaker culture, in the sneaker industry.
Do you see that being some type of marketing strategy soon? Maybe someone hops in
No,
a
only
sneaker
because
space?
because a lot of the brands, they already didn't want to be part of the space, and now that Elon is part of it, they definitely don't want to. They don't, like, it's not a safe space for them to activate or make an investment. And so
Sense.
a lot of it, I don't think that it has anything to do with the messiness or whatever. It's just the platform itself for a lot of brands is not a good look. I think if they were going to activate on that level, they would use Threads, like, at this point.
You talk about advocating for women for many years. Do you feel that those conversations that may have not been had in the past or been had now?
No, I think the conversation has continued to be had for 20 something years. And so it's like, just the other day I saw, Key talking about wanting to see more dark skinned women in advertising. It's like, damn, we've been talking about this for 20 fucking years. And like, if people in position would all do their part, then maybe these conversations wouldn't keep occurring, right? So I think that is because I personally have never had an issue like presenting a slate of dark skinned women. But for me, like, if somebody is bringing my shop in, they expect that. They expect like a true diversity slide, and like that extra thought to be put into it. But I think that these conversations and body positive conversations are still like still being had. The things that I've seen definitely be addressed are like the shrink it and pink it, and like that kind of the pink and purple Swarovski crystal kind of. These are the only sneakers for women, and women want variety, and we want size inclusivity. So a long time collabs didn't drop below a 7. And so even if you wore a 6 or a 6.5 or a 5 or a 5.5, which are common women's sizes, is like, yeah, you're not participating because you're not a men's 7. Like, you don't got a big ass foot. You can't cop it. And back then I would cop them still because I would want them. And it's like, I'm not going to wear them, but I'll have them on display somewhere. So that I have seen definitely trend better. We're getting better collabs. I was blessed to do one myself to be able to speak to that language of like, just give us a regular shoe with a woman collaborator that like we can wear all the time. Not that's some like super feminine, not every woman is like that. And I think that has been a conversation I've definitely seen. And the sizing, like, they're going down to like 3.5 now, which I love. Or even like Kiss and his little shoes and the little piggy runners that are the little piggy runners too. Like, yeah, all of that I think is beautiful to see today when we didn't have, like, that was not a reality when I was coming up in sneaker culture.
So what did you do with all those size sevens?
I sold them. When I got divorced, I was like,
Hmm.
oh, I had to sell like almost my whole collection. Funny story. When I got divorced, the
Hmm.
perfect pair, his daughter was turning 16 and he ended up buying like my whole collection, like, which
It's
really allowed
crazy.
me to leave my ex-husband. He bought it for his daughter's 16th birthday. And they came to pick it up from me in a limo. Like, it was crazy, like, because it was like 100 pairs, but that money allowed me to then leave my ex-husband and kind of start a new life. And so sneakers is definitely an investment in that way.
As we talk about brand engagement, where do you feel that brands get it right, and where do you feel they fall short when it comes to sneakers?
I think they fall short all the time because they don't invest. I think a lot of times they're not investigating conversations. They're just they see like one little point that was, kind of
Hmm.
come up and made, and then they stick to that, and then they use their own strategy and like their own thought process of like what that means, instead of bringing in people that actually come from those communities, those specific niche communities, and
Yeah.
having them collaborate on it to have say like, this is how we should do it. This is kind of this is where the conversations are happening, or this is actually what the conversation is. And a lot of the times the brand just needs to have somebody that they trust. Somebody at the brand needs to be able to trust a voice to say,
Hmm.
okay, and to have the conversation.
Do you feel that you're that voice that they can trust?
I'm one for sure, but I
Hmm.
mean, there are plenty of voices that I know that brands trust.
Hmm.
Bima for sure. I mean, that people claim a seat. Like, I'm so proud of him and what he's
For
done. But
sure.
I think that comes with, I'm an ethical journal. Like, I've been a journalist, so I
Hmm.
think having trust is like, are you gonna act a fool if we put you on, in a public, we put you on the Nike app, or it's like, are you gonna act a fool? Are you gonna write something that isn't going, like, that we have to edit 30 times down? Like,
Hmm.
do you understand the business of it? And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are you an ethical storyteller? And do people listen to you in spaces that matter to us?
I wanna touch on the active food part, because I feel like we it gets a little conflicting when people want to, how I say this, keep it real. And there's a thin line between keeping it real and acting a fool and speaking your truth. What is your advice to someone that wants to keep it real, speak their truth, but still keep that professional relationship?
I think understanding what the fuck you're talking about, for one, like understanding the language, like understanding the language that's being
Hmm.
used, so that you can use the language that they understand, that you actually have
Hmm.
done the reading, right? And so for me, that has always helped, because I, went into strategy from journalism. And
Hmm.
so it's like having to understand, like, listening and research and like all of these moments, to build together kind of a point of view. Because
Hmm.
it's not just about like you and your personal point of view. It's, can you take like all of the evidence, right? The
Hmm.
analytics, etc., and the impact, learning how to make impact reports and pulling testimonials from people. Like, can you put a package together and speak to something cohesively and connect the dots? Like, because of this, this happens, and because of this happens, and like, where are the breaking points? And also
Hmm.
being solutions oriented. I think that's where we fail a lot, as a community, is not being solutions oriented and just
Hmm.
complaining a lot. But for like, I definitely, I feel, but some people will say like I've acted a fool for sure. But it's, for me, I think that it's more of knowing when to act a fool. Like, is it, and then knowing who your audience is.
Yeah.
Because one of the times I remember, like, clear, I was speaking on a panel during Fashion Week, and it was
Hmm.
mainly like agency white people in the audience, but there was maybe like 10 Black women off to the corner. And somebody the question was about um, women being in more campaigns, and
Mhm.
another woman on the panel was like, well, you have to put together your KPI, like you have to hit KPIs and you have to put together a strong personal brand. And I just stopped her. I was like, honey, I'm going to stop you real quick, because as a Black woman that's been in this for a long time, like they don't give a fuck about the KPIs. The truth is that Black women oftentimes make white men uncomfortable, and the whole room
Mm.
just like shut down. But then those little five Black women like were hooting and hollering in the corner. And it's like, yeah, like this could be considered acting a fool, but it's also like this needs to be said in this moment. And to your
Mhm.
point, like I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like I'm not gonna code switch. I'm gonna use
Mhm.
the appropriate language that they understand me. And I'm able to
Mhm.
translate in that way. Like making sure that you can speak in rooms in the language that people can understand you, I think is very important.
So when would you say is at that moment when you said that, what made that a good opportunity or a good time to act a fool?
For me, I felt like this audience of people in the fashion industry, and it's a full white
Mhm.
audience, they need to hear that, because we're
Mm.
often having conversations like that in these spaces, like with just Black people. But it's
Yeah,
like, no,
for
they
sure.
need to hear that, and somebody needs to be willing to say it. And I think for me, like I was always willing to say something that other people weren't willing to say,
Yeah.
and that started early in my career. And it wasn't ever disrespectful or derogatory. It's just like, this is a problem and this is what it is. So, I would say things like Complex has 16 media outlets and not one for women. Like, do they really support us? And like a
Mhm.
lot of people wouldn't say that because they want that relationship or whatever. But it's like at that point, I didn't give a fuck about, like I worked under the Complex umbrella at Kicks on Fire for 10 years. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care to be on there. Like that don't matter to me. I think these things, I want to use my voice, the people that are listening to me, to say these things.
Yeah. So do you feel that there has to be an agreement like with yourself that you're willing to make a few sacrifices to kind of speak your truth? Like you may have to,
Absolutely.
cut some, get rid of some relationships or burn some bridges.
But anybody that doesn't want to work with me because I advocate for Black women, like I don't want to work with you either. Like, like why would I
I
want to
feel
work
that. I
with you
feel
if
that.
like if you don't want to hear what I'm saying, like then if
Mm.
this is how we talk in our community, and you want to be threatened by that or whatever, then like
Mhm.
why would I want to work with you? So I think that for me, but to your point, like yeah, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices, because that it
Mhm.
definitely made for a long road for me. I've been talking about telling Black stories and women's stories since before, COVID, and like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
before it was cool, and so I think that it definitely held me back in a lot of ways. But it's like this is my platform. And I think that
Mhm.
people need to um, in the space like that. Before in the space, you could have a simple slice of like, well, I want to tell women's stories, and that
Mhm.
would be a differentiator. But today,
Yeah.
there's so many different factions of community within sneaker culture, and so
Mhm.
today that POV needs to be niched down further. Of like, well, I want to tell stories about women in tennis, or like I want
Mhm.
to tell stories about women chefs that also like sneakers, or I want to highlight this specific audience in
Yeah.
within women, like it's and so I think that part is necessary for like a budding content creator influencer to understand, is like choosing I think it's very important that when your name comes up, that three things come to that person's mind, like that are
Mhm.
top of mind. So when people think about me, they think about either Kicks on Fire or like me being at it for a long time. They think about women's stories. They think about Black storytelling, um, Black footwear forum. Like these are the things that kind of not define who I am, but kind of shape the personal brand. And so I think that, with Key, who I love, is like Michael
Shout
Jackson,
out Key.
and kind of like the goth girl culture. Like that
Mhm.
to me, like she's an icon in that, like she is that girl, right? And for that girl, because I've been following her 15 years, and this is who she's been the whole
That's
time.
crazy.
So it's like, yeah, I think that for me is like understanding that there's a hero, a style
Mhm.
hero, as I like to say, like for different factions of different audiences. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm not going to be the voice for all women, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to make
You can.
sure that um, those voices are in place. I want to position those voices to be in place so that they could tell those stories.
So, like, what is your advice to someone that's up and coming and like they're not established? They don't have that 10 years that kicks on fires, that 20 years experience, don't have their own shoe, and they're like, I want to speak up though, but they still want to kind of work their way up through the industry. So, like, do they bite their tongue and not say anything, or do they, speak their truth? Do they advocate for what they advocate for?
I think it depends on where you want to land. Like if you want to be working in-house at a brand,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to have to be very careful about the shit that you say and on all, platforms, because you definitely can't be, you want to work at Nike and you talk the shit about Nike. Like you can't be doing that, because
Yeah.
they're looking all over the place. And I think understanding, kind of where you want to be, like you don't having an opinion in all this is like there's not really, the content creator doesn't exist in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could kind of parlay that. I always tell people to like make sure what do you want to parlay this into? Like I was talking to Kava from the Bronx Girl Skate, I think it's called, but she's asking me like, I don't know what to do now because my shoe is out. I have all this attention, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
girl, you need to parlay that into something. Like,
For sure.
do you want to tell a story? You could either like
Mm-hmm.
take this and like, how are you going to tell this story in a bigger way with other brands, or like, do you want to design more shoes with like, so it just depends on where you want to end up, because you're not going to be allowed all of that freedom, and they don't want to hear all that shit working at like Wyden and Kennedy or working in-house at the brand. But if you want to be a voice, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
I think that you want to work on the outside or in media, then yeah, you can be a little bit more loose. And then how are you, like, where else are you showing up? Like I speak very loose on my social channels, but when I'm interviewed for print or whatever, like I make sure that is something that is
Yeah.
not just for the community. It's also for
Yeah.
like
Nah.
the 50-year-old VP, right? Like they could understand that too.
Yeah. I like that. Shout out to Kava and her latest release with her sneaker. But if you had an opportunity to have your release another show of your own right now in this period, what story would you tell?
See, that's like that's one of the reasons I'm not like writing or something, is because I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like I don't know if I have a story that's really passionate to me right now to tell. I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of the stories I would have wanted to tell, the girls are telling, or like J Tips, Joe Freshgood, like somebody is telling them already.
Mm-hmm.
And even with Kava, for example, like I came into sneaker collecting through skate shoes. Like I was a
Mm-hmm.
skateboarder. And so for a long time, I wanted to see women in skate be promoted, Black women in skate be promoted. A Black woman with her my own like Nike, like that was a moment for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, I was waiting for that story for 20 years, 30 years. But I don't necessarily have like a story on my heart today. I think one of the bigger things, if I was going to do a project today, would more so be around accessibility, because I had a
Mm-hmm.
stroke and I had a brain surgery. And so I can't use my dominant hand. Like my right hand is very, like I can kind of move it like this, but like I can't write with it. I can't do a lot with it. And so I can't tie my shoes. I can't relace my shoes, and I can't tie my son has to tie my shoes for me every day. And so for me, it's like, okay, well, I wish the first thing I'm looking on the internet is like a one-hand shoe tire. Like how can I still participate without it being so difficult for me with only,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm new to the disability world, but
Mm-hmm.
it definitely has made me far more passionate about accessible product, because what are those Nikes that like, they
The
you know what I'm talking about? They like,
yes, yeah,
the bat
yeah,
comes off.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I would definitely,
Spider-Man swap ups.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I would definitely need that now. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's, just having far more empathy for the disabled community, and wanting to advocate for women in that space as well, because I have a new appreciation for not being able to do simple things, having one hand.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think other than that, I don't have a story. Like I would love to see like somebody like Key get a shoe. Or I would love to see
Hmm.
these types of stories being told so that more niche communities within sneaker culture are able to be amplified.
I like it. Of course, we can't question your longevity, but do you ever feel like there's times where you have to reestablish yourself or kind of make yourself relevant or
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny because when I saw that question, I was like super excited about it because I was like, oh, I love that he's asking me that. Um, no, I never feel like I need to reestablish who I am in sneaker culture.
hmm
And I never feel, I get tried a lot, but I never feel like I need to, yeah, but it's like I never feel like, because I only have a very small amount of following, but it's not about, again, like,
hmm
not about, how many people follow you. It's the quality. It's
Yeah, yeah,
who's following you, right? And so,
for
but people
sure.
will see those and be like, oh, who is this girl? Or like,
Hmm.
what is she done? And so I think for me, I don't really, not that I don't care about those people, but it's like I'm not gonna um, defend myself. Like I'm not gonna be like I've done this, and this, because to me,
Hmm.
the people that care about the work, the type of work that I do, and the people that do the reading in this business, like they know who I am. Like if you don't care about Black storytelling or women's storytelling, you've never researched that, or like then you don't know who I am. But if you don't care and you don't care about the longevity kind of sneaker cult, like done the reading as far as like
Hmm.
sneaker media, like then no, you're not going to know who I am. But at this point, I'm in 3 sneaker books. I've been in People magazine, like so it's like, yeah, if you don't know who I am, that's on you. Like I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, and then also to me is like I don't know if you necessarily would care or need to know who I am if you don't care about the things that I advocate for. Like you wouldn't know.
I like that. I like that answer. I respect that answer a lot
Yeah.
because it's more of you. You're challenging the person. You're not really
I mean, if you know,
challenging.
you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Pretty
that's to
much.
me,
I
if
like
you
that.
know, you know. And if you know, I have a lot of respect for you because it's coming from
Yeah.
journalism and strategy too. It's like, have you
Mhm.
done the reading? Like,
Mhm.
do you just know me as the girl with the Reebok? A lot of people just know me from the
Mm.
shoe too. And it's like, they'll call me a footwear designer when I have, like, as if the other 20 years of my career, like, this one thing
Yeah.
defines. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, I never, like even I thought about that question yesterday because I had a fucking barber post accidentally go viral about my
Yeah. I
son's
seen.
barber. Oh
I
yeah,
seen.
my bad. But so many people were like, "Oh, you're a sneaker icon. Like, what does that mean?" And it's like, if you don't know or you don't want to do the reading, I'm not going to
Mhm.
explain it to you. I didn't call
Mm.
myself an icon. Dr. Dwayne called me an icon. And if you don't know who
Mhm.
Dr. Dwayne is, you really don't give a fuck about Black storytelling
Yeah.
or like Black people in the business because you're not doing the reading. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like that. Do we even need to be in the same circles if like this is not important to you?
I like that. I mean, yeah, I really appreciate the answer because it's a good way to look at things. Like if you don't know who I am, then I don't think I need to associate with you anyways. Like I like that. I'm gonna have to steal that. I'm gonna
And
be
it's
real with
not
you.
in like, yeah, and it's not like an ego thing. It's like at
Yeah,
this
nah, for
point I've
sure.
literally been in every business effect, like every media
Mhm.
publication there is. I held a column at Revolt. So it's like, yeah, you do a Google of me, it's gonna be 10 pages of sneaker shit.
Mhm.
So it's, if you don't care about women's like you, and I have always shown up in those spaces, then no, you're not gonna know who I
Mhm.
am. But I get a ton of people every day that do know and
Mhm.
they need help. And it's like, yeah, you're already doing the work, right?
Yeah.
To doing the reading. And so I will jump in and help.
I like it. I like it. I may have to rephrase this question just based off of the answer that you just gave. But what legacy do you hope to leave in this space if you even hope to, leave anything?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the award, in my name is my legacy in the
For
space.
sure.
I think my career is the legacy because it showed other women they could do it, and it showed
Yeah.
other women what was possible in the space without being. And no shit, I love a Laylee, but like we're not all gonna be a Laylee. You know what I'm saying? Like let's be
Yeah.
real. So it's like there's I think that showing girls that it's possible to have a career and not be a footwear designer or, like have a super public facing modeling career. I don't think that, I
Mm-hmm.
think I want to be a voice for the business of sneakers. I think that has been a legacy of mine. But Dr. Dwayne calling me and saying, "Hey, Jazz, like I'm creating an award called the Women's Advocate Icon Award, and it's going to be, what do you want to name? Like, do you want your name to
Mm-hmm.
be on it?" I struggled with that. Cried so long because I was like, I don't want my name, like it's such a long name. And my best friends were like, "Girl, it's white people with crazy ass names with, and
Yeah,
that
yeah.
have the award in their name. Like, you better put your
Mm-hmm.
long ass fucking name, on that." And so
Yeah.
it is the Jazerai Allen Lord Women's Advocate Icon Award. And that, Dr. Dwayne had seen me advocating and telling women's stories all this time and being passionate, like sticking to that. That's been like the one thing that I've done consistently in my entire career,
Mm-hmm.
no matter where I've been. And so he's like, yeah. And being, he had to know the work, which means I had to be in that space. I had to position myself like networking up to make sure that these
Mm-hmm.
people like know what I'm doing in the space and doing things that were important, not just having Twitter spaces, right? Like no shit, but it's like doing things like in all throughout, like
Yeah.
doing multiple things that speak to the same message, the same point of view. He's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're consistent. You've been doing it. Like, this is like, you are the icon of this. And so now that award is literally going to live on for as long as, Pencil
Mm-hmm.
Academy, bless them, lives on. This award will live on. And I think that is my legacy right now because I get to name a woman every
Mm-hmm.
year. It's been difficult though, because the award is really intended for a woman that has been advocating for women in sneakers for at least 10 years. And
Mm.
unfortunately, there's just not a lot,
Like,
not a lot of
yeah.
people that have been doing it that long. And so that, I've been able to bless like I've had three women receive the award, but every year I, go to Detroit and present it to a new woman and be able to
Mm-hmm.
create a legacy in that way.
No, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That is one hell of a legacy. I mean, no, there's nothing else that really needs to be said to that. I mean, it speaks for itself. And I think uh your work and what you've done does a lot of it speaking for itself. You really don't have to hop on a podcast. You don't really have to give these interviews. Like you said, if like I wasn't hip to you, but just being in the space, like the dots connecting, is like I had no choice but to know who you were. So it's just like you don't have to tell me. I don't really have to ask because I already know. So, congratulations, shout out to you and
Thank you.
what you've done and what you continue to do.
Thank you. Thank you. So, consistency is the biggest thing in this business and not just like posting consistently, but being consistent. Like
Yeah,
the
for
types of
sure.
stories you're telling, like, do you talk about basketball? Like, what are
Mm-hmm.
what is that's consistent about you that has a sticking point? Anybody
Mm-hmm.
can pop one time, but to be able to like, and I
Yeah.
honestly feel bad for like the kids that are young and they're like seeing success at 19, 20, because it's like, you're going to have to carry that until you're 60.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Yeah.
easy, like as much as like we change, like I'm not the same woman I was at 25 when I started in this business. At
Mm-hmm.
25, yeah, I'm like hosting after parties and, with Puma and Meek Mill and like, you know, bottles and like all of this. I'm like, yeah, that is not who I am today. And,
Yeah.
how I dress is like even the things, but the message is the same. But,
Yeah.
the personality is definitely shifted as I'm approaching 45 this year. So learning to change and like not reinvent yourself, but like where do you fit in today's culture? And I think that
Mm.
for me is like I fit in owning my business and on the business and working in sneaker culture is how. But like I honestly think my super collecting days might be behind me. Yeah, I have to realistically think about the fact of like I'm going to be 45 this year. I have
Mm-hmm.
300 pairs of shoes. Like how much time, how much life really do I have left to wear all these? If I can keep buying at this rate, like
Yeah. Yeah.
this doesn't make sense. I'm basically buying just to leave my kids a collection, so it's like, yeah, I feel safe with the shoes that I have right now. And unless I'm
Hmm.
really excited about something, I don't think I'm going to be doing a whole bunch more buying.
That's just, it's part of evolution. That's it. That's all. That's all that is. That's part of
Yep.
evolution. But let's get into the showcase shoe. What's your showcase shoe for today?
I wanted to bring these ones. It's the Black History Month New Balance, from one of their first packs that they did. I was blessed to work on this, on their first two collections, as far as being the agency that pushed the
Mm-hmm.
shoe. So
Yeah.
I love this. This is the packaging for the shoe.
Yeah. That's dope. I like it.
And then what I think is very important is inside it's listed
Oh.
all, all of the Black people that worked on the shoe. And I think that to me is important. So this shoe, this is designed by a team of Black New Balance associates. And so what I think is about intentional storytelling is like everybody Black in each point of the business, everybody was Black. And so, the
Mm-hmm.
director, my good friend Portia, the senior director, the product manager, both of them, the senior and the associate, the VP, the marketing manager, every person that worked on this shoe was Black. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where we get what I thought this is one of the more important collections, even though
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not a huge super fan of the shoe. And I don't, but I think
Yeah.
that the way that they rolled it out
The,
was important, which is something that I had talked New Balance with my client forever. I talked to him about was like the story is getting lost. Like the design team puts together the story, but then the
mm-hmm.
marketing team doesn't understand it, and so because there's nobody Black on the marketing team, so then they might do something to fuck it up. Then it goes to PR, and there's nobody Black in PR. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
all these points at which a
Mm-hmm.
story could fall apart, and it's like
Yeah.
you have to make sure that at each place the product is passed, that somebody
Mm-hmm.
there can account for what the main intention was. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that to me was one of the most important Black History Month projects I've seen, because it's like there was intention behind the actual drop, not just, oh, we're going to
Yeah.
get a Black creative partner to design something, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Nah, I like that pair now, and I'm a sucker for packaging. So definitely finna go on my eBay watch list, cause yeah, I love nice packaging. I love special boxes. I'm all for that. That is a selling point for me. I may like a shoe and go to loving it just based off of how it's delivered, the packaging, storytelling. So
Me too.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely gonna be looking out for that pair. My showcase is a pair that we've seen recently. Wolf Gray Fives.
Oof.
Shout out
This
to Kasha
shoe
for
has
getting these.
this
Yeah,
shoe has also caused quite a commotion online too, I've seen.
crazy. What did the Wolf Gray Fives is doing? I mean, it's been special to me because I just remember in high school not having the pair. But I really again got it. I got it wrong with the black metallics, and got it wrong with these as well. I was thinking like the Wolf Gray Fives. I'm gonna be able to do what I gotta do that day and get on later on at 2 o'clock Saturday and be like, yeah, I might grab me a pair. Who knows? But yeah, nah, definitely changed the game.
And I
So
love
very.
those too, but it's like that to my point is like I love fives, but it's
Hmm.
am I gonna wear that in my life today? Like, no, I'm not wearing
Yeah,
I'm not wearing the fives I have, even though I love fives. Like I have to
yeah, I
really
get it.
make these types of decisions with myself now.
Yeah, no, I feel that 100%. Yeah, shout out to Kasha for helping me get these. I like to say your sneaker friends have y'all jumping through hoops, writing 3-page letters, and entering $5 raffles. So if they really wanted to, they would. That's
Yep.
all I gotta say about that. Um, but again, I appreciate you hopping on the Soul Brother podcast, taking time out your day. Any closing remarks?
I appreciate you. I love to see more Black voices in sneaker journalism. And so that's why I thought it was important to come on this show. And I saw you had Ashley and Keith. So I was like, yeah, I think
Oh
that's
yeah, for
important
sure.
too. Like, are the guests like minded? Like,
Yeah.
but I, yeah, would love to connect with any women who are needing any guidance or advice. Please slide in my DMs. My DMs are always open.
Love it. I love it. And that's where we're gonna end it, guys. As I always say, love, peace, and sneakers.
Retro 7s and Retro 3s, metallic silver, Retro 11, sitting on freeze. They got soul. Yeah. Soul brothers.